Hello, Bl'Artagnan here with Bl'Arts and Leisure number 5, my incredibly inconsistent series where I ramble on about a topic being discussed in the DFFOO community of the day. Gonna have a little extreme TCC challenge in the background, meaning no synergy and no BT of any kind, so that's kinda neat. But that's not the focus of this video. What I want to talk about is garbage time. What is garbage time? You may have heard the term bandied about. It's a term we've adopted here from the sports community, football, baseball, basketball, cricket, whatever your jam is really. And it refers to those twilight minutes of a game where the outcome's already been decided, and basically decisions no longer matter at that point. The coach can sub in their rookies, their bench players, they can give their aces a rest. It doesn't really matter because the game is functionally over, it just hasn't, at this point there's nothing else to do. So why are we calling this period of the game garbage time? The reason basically is because, if you've been playing the game at a high level, kind of end game state for a while now, if you've cleared a few Lufenias, you know what you're doing here, you have a built roster, you're going to find the fights that we're seeing to be a lot easier than the fights we've had in the past. If you look at Queen's Lost Chapter, or this event right here, the Colette event, and compare it to fights we've had basically any other stage of Lufenia time, as far as, Camelot's Lost Chapter, all the way up through, even Lufenia Plus, compare this to even Arenea's Lost Chapter by comparison. The mechanics are a lot less punishing, if there are any. And the fight's just not as dangerous. There are two kind of pieces at play here. One is player strength. BT Plus at this point has given the player an unparalleled amount of power, and the bosses don't really do a whole lot to circumvent that. You look at what Machina can do to a stage, and they just, that'll blow a stage apart if the numbers aren't outpacing his damage, and they aren't. By contrast, the bosses aren't really putting up a whole lot of resistance. There's not a whole lot of threat. In the past, we've had threshold mechanics, we've had recast attacks, we've had, weird debuffs and buffs and attacks that ignore mitigation, all sorts of different components that you have to keep track of and work around and understand. This boss, aside from their orb, they have a brave attack they do that applies a debuff, and they have an AoE HP attack that can be dealt with literally any form of mitigation in the game. I have died to it, but you have to basically be trying to. You have to bring a team with no real mitigation and take back-to-back attacks. So anyway, where does that leave us? Why is it a problem? The reason that I think a lot of people are kind of not looking forward to the apparently 5 months or so of garbage time that we have to look forward to here, is that it represents what I feel is an unhealthy direction for the game to go. Now, I know you may be enjoying this time. I know there are plenty of people who are saying, hey, I love it. I'm able to beat Lufenia Plus now. This is awesome. And, I'm glad you're enjoying it. Don't get me wrong. More power to you if you're having fun, finding the fights enjoyable, engaging with them, with the mechanics or whatever. But, here's the thing. This is supposed to be the highest level of difficulty the game has to offer. The biggest challenge, the largest obstacle we have to overcome. And at this point, it's not terribly challenging. And I don't think that's a great idea. For one thing, if you're before I get too deep into that, I want to address an argument I've seen quite a bit, which is different people play the game for different reasons. Oh, maybe you play the game as a character collector. You're just doing this so you can use your favorite Final Fantasy characters, and that's a completely legitimate and valid way to play the game. However, if you're playing the game as a character collector, then your interest shouldn't have to be on endgame, it should be on character collection, and there are plenty of ways to collect characters in this game that don't involve having to clear endgame content. Characters aren't locked behind this. It's not like you aren't even having to collect skins or something through this. There are rewards locked behind it, BT plus materials in this case, but they're not required to beat the stage itself. That's another complaint I've seen is, they lock the materials you need to beat the stage behind this. That is not true. They lock the materials you need to beat the next level behind the stage. And so, with this, you don't need to beat Lufenia Plus in order... you don't need to beat Lufenia Plus to beat Lufenia Plus. You don't need the BT Plus in order to do it. Look at here, right here. No BT characters even as a friend unit, and you're able to beat the stage. So, you look at the other stages that are offered. There's a reason that every event that comes out, they have different difficulty tiers. For this stage alone, you got levels 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. You got the level 70 co-op, which I will admit, I don't think anyone touches, so that's... Then you got level 70 co-op, you got your You used to have EX level 100, but not anymore. They merged that and put the rewards. They merged the rewards into other fight difficulties to make sure that, make it more accessible and to create less busy time. Because that's the thing. Those fights aren't just there to create a sense of busy time and, okay, well, I'll just grind through this and waste some time. It's so that people can play the game at their own pace. That's what those are. Those are the different difficulty settings. And yes, there are different rewards for beating each one. So if you're like a completionist, then yes, I understand like the anxiety of, I gotta beat all of them to get all this stuff. I get that, but the cognitive dissonance there, you want to earn the rewards without having earned the rewards. And I don't think it's unreasonable for a game's highest difficulty to demand things of players, to impose a challenge, to force a player to make decisions, to use their critical thinking skills to overcome a puzzle. Because that's what this game sells. They sell two things. One is the Final Fantasy fan service. You play your favorite characters. Yeah, build your dream Final Fantasy team. I think that's what the ad has said. The other thing that you will see is they talk about the engaging turn-based combat. That is a selling point of the game. It's not engaging if the decisions that are made during it don't matter. Then it's just an auto-battler. My friend tried to get me into Idle Champions a couple years ago, and I tried it, and I couldn't stick with it because the decisions didn't matter. It was an idle clicker. You set it aside and it played itself, and that's not what this game is supposed to be. It's not what it's advertised as, and it's not what it's been historically throughout its life. The highest level fight in the game has always been a challenge because it's supposed to be a challenge to be overcome, and that's what endgame is. That's what the hardest difficulty is. If you turn on Devil May Cry and you turn on Dante Must Die and then cry because Dante died, that's on you. That's not on the game. The hard mode should be hard. Maybe not, oppressively punishing depending on the game you're playing, but like, I think people's expectations are a little bit warped right now. If they're saying, this is great, I'm finally able to beat Lufania Plus. They shouldn't be happy because the fight is so easy they can beat it. They should be thinking like, okay, this should motivate me so that I can get good enough to beat the other, to beat this one and other ones and to get better and to improve. Because if you're playing at the highest difficulty, you're seeking a challenge. You're seeking to improve yourself and to prove yourself. Improve and prove. And so do that. Prove yourself. Improve. Don't rely on the game being easy enough for you to beat it. Rely on yourself being good enough to overcome what is thrown at you. Because I know you can do it. I didn't think I could do it, and I learned that I could. Actually, it's... So I get a little bit frustrated when I see players complaining about the difficulty in the context of not wanting to learn to improve themselves when it comes to the highest difficulty available. If they just want to goof around with their favorite characters, there are plenty of other ways to do that in this game. There's a reason that co-op isn't Lufania Plus. There's a reason that Chaos and Cosmos exist. You're allowed to play the game at that level. There's no shame in doing it. It's a fun experience. I play my challenge quests and I enjoy them because, honestly, sometimes a chiller experience is a cool thing, but there should be a range. That range should allow for a diversity of experience. I've talked about angles of enjoyment before. A game should have multiple angles of enjoyment if it has multiple modes. I mean, if you're just playing, tic-tac-toe, there are only so many ways you can play tic-tac-toe, but if you're playing a game with different modes, and that includes different difficulty settings, each of those difficulty settings should represent a different experience. And I think the hardest one should represent a mode in which your decisions matter. And right now, we're not really in a state of the game where your decisions truly matter. You can bring a modern team and kind of crush it more or less with anything, give or take. And if your counterpoint to that is, well, I can't, then I think that there's room there. There's room for growth and improvement. So prove me wrong. Or not, well, I guess prove you wrong in this case, I guess. But better yourself. I want to see you get better. And I want to see everyone get better here. And I want them to, when they beat Lufania, not to think, oh good, the fight was easy enough for me to beat. I want them to think, oh good, I'm good enough to beat this fight. And so there ends my little rant. I hope it was thought-provoking, hopefully not too controversial, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching through to the end. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. I know a lot of folks have been weighing in on it, so I'd be curious to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Adios.